What's up, y'all? There's a lot of young men that are just not participating anymore. Not in dating, not in career climbing, not in traditional life milestones. A lot of people are just working minimum jobs, living at home and gaming and checking out of what society says they should be doing. And people are asking, why are young men like this? As if it's some type of mysterious phenomenon. College enrollment is down, workforce participation is down, marriage rates are down, social engagement is down, and it's not a few isolated cases at this point. It's a pattern affecting millions of young men who've collectively decided the game isn't worth playing. And before anyone jumps to conclusions, like, this isn't about blaming anyone or claiming victimhood. It's just about understanding why an entire demographic is rationally choosing to disengage from systems that seem designed to offer them nothing. This is about why young men are opting out of society, coming from someone who struggled with substance abuse and withdrawn from society at one point in their life. So let's talk about it. I would say the most concrete reason is the economic path that used to define male success is essentially closed for a lot of young men right now. And society still expects men to be providers, to have stable careers, to achieve financial independence, and these expectations haven't changed, but the economic reality that made them possible is completely transformed. Our grandparents could graduate high school, get a factory job, buy a house, and support a family on one income, and it's not entitlement. That was just statistical reality, and now obviously that's not the game anymore. It's changed quite a bit, and college enrollment is down more for men than women. And why is that though? I think it's because men are watching older brothers graduate with debt and no job prospects. We see friends do it too, and they're doing the math and deciding 4 years of debt for a maybe job isn't worth it. And it's not laziness, it's just rational calculation. If you're going to college for something that has a high rate of return and you know you're going to be making a lot and can pay off that debt, then I'd say it's worth it. But for a lot of cases right now, it's not. And you also have trades. You can learn a trade, but that path has become a romanticized alternative path that has its own barriers. So it's like a game where the starting area used to have clear progression, but now it requires premium currency just to access basic features. Free-to-play players concede they can't compete, so why even try? And you can't tell young men to be traditional providers while removing the economic conditions that made providing even possible. Many young men look at the path ahead and see predetermined failure. Work hard, accumulate debt, struggle for years, and maybe achieve stability by 40 if you're lucky. The risk-reward ratio feels completely broken. And I think a problem too, we live in a society where like being in debt is the norm. Overspending, living beyond your means is completely normalized, and there's a lot of young men that fall into this trap as well, and that does not help the case. And beyond economics, there's young men that are experiencing unprecedented social isolation. I've talked about this in other videos, and it's easier to retreat than to fight it. Male friendship formation has declined dramatically. The places men used to build friendships, churches, community centers, sports leagues, workplace social events, like they've largely disappeared or moved online, where friendships feel more shallow. And third places where people casually socialize are kind of a thing of the past. People aren't hanging out at the mall as a broke teenager like they used to. Coffee shops expect you to buy stuff, and parks feel unsafe or unwelcoming in some areas. It seems like there's nowhere to just exist and meet people organically. And gaming isn't making men antisocial, it's offering community that doesn't exist elsewhere. Online gaming communities provide male bonding, shared purpose, and social connection, and that's harder to find in person now. And men report higher loneliness rates than ever, especially among Gen Z. But male emotional expression is still stigmatized. You're supposed to be stoic and self-sufficient while also being emotionally available, and the contradictory expectations are just paralyzing. It's like how some players prefer solo games because multiplayer feels too demanding or toxic. When social interaction costs more emotional energy than it returns, like withdrawal makes complete sense. Online communities feel safer for many young men, and there's no judgment for not having money or status or traditional success markers, just shared interests and genuine connection. And we've lost a lot of that in real life. I remember personally, like a little bit before the beginning of a certain pandemic that we all know about that I can't say on YouTube for whatever reason, I was getting really bad with substance abuse, and I started to see the cultural shifts and everything going on in our world too. And on top of, again, substance abuse, I didn't want to participate in society anymore. And I remember gaming was like the one thing that kind of saved my life sometimes. Kept me in the house and it kept me out of trouble a lot of times, and I felt still accepted by people in there when I felt rejected by everybody else. Before I get into the next part, like there's a term that people call this called the doomer mindset. I'm sure y'all have heard of it before, especially if you're around my age and watching this video. If you're not sure what it is or haven't fully heard it, it's basically a mindset where everything looks doom and gloom. There's no hope for the future, and it's really bad for you. I can tell you that right now. And it goes right along with people checking out of society. And like I said, I've done it myself. I understand. And we're going to get into some solutions and maybe some advice I can offer, but I want to talk about the elephant in the room first. I've talked about it on the channel plenty of times, but there's many young men who have completely given up on dating. Dating apps are horrific, and it's fundamentally changed dating dynamics, and studies show 80% of women match with 20% of men, and if you're an average guy, your experience is sending hundreds of messages and getting few responses, and that can be soul crushing. Women can now filter men by height, income, education before ever even matching. And men who don't meet the thresholds are invisible. And previous generations didn't have this level of pre-screening, and imperfect people still found partners on the regular. And women have more choice than ever, and what they're looking for seems to be very hard to achieve for young men currently. And this creates a paradox of choice. Like, why settle for the guy in front of you when the next swipe might be better? And traditional dating required men to approach, plan, pay, pursue, and that worked when there was reasonable success rate. But now you do all that work for extremely low success rate. And many men conclude it's not worth the effort, rejection, or expense. Men are told that their sexuality is inherently problematic, that approaching women is potentially harassment, and that expressing interest is threatening. And how are you supposed to date when expressing basic romantic interests can feel criminalized? Well, my thoughts on it is that this is what the internet says, and that's what it's like on dating apps. If you go out in person, and I met my girl out in the real world authentically and organically, and I've talked about it on this channel. And yes, they are few and far between nowadays, but they still exist, and it's still important to date in your 20s and to do this stuff. And I think a lot of the stuff people say on TikTok, Instagram, whatever, those don't really apply in real life. Like, when you actually go out in reality, it's a lot different than how people tend to express it on social media. And I've just seen it with my own eyes, and I'm speaking from experience. And it doesn't help it either. There's men that retreat into communities like men going their own way or similar spaces. These can become toxic echo chambers where the doomer mindset just gets shared, and these really bad, horrific beliefs about themselves and the world. And they emerge from legitimate frustration with dating dynamics that feel impossible to navigate successfully. So I get it to an extent, but it's not good to live in. And I noticed it too with my situationships video. It's my most viewed video right now. I've seen a lot of people get vulnerable in the comments, and I appreciate those comments, but there was a few in there where people, they just seem like so bitter towards the world and towards women in general, and it's like, that is not a good mindset to be in. You're not hurting anyone but yourself, really. And beyond practical barriers, there's a deeper crisis. Young men don't know what they're supposed to be anymore. When everything else seems closed off and society offers no clear answer, it can turn into a train wreck. Traditional masculine traits like protector, provide, stoic strength are now considered problematic to a lot of people, but no clear alternative vision has been provided, and men are told what not to be without being told what they should be. And yes, genuinely toxic behaviors exist, but the term has been applied so broadly that normal male behaviors like competitiveness, risk-taking, and physical activity, direct communication, it gets labeled toxic, and this leaves men unsure of what's acceptable. Media portrays men as either toxic or incompetent. Positive masculinity examples are rare, and young men don't see themselves reflected positively anywhere in culture nowadays. Previous generations of men had clear purposes: build a career, provide for the family, contribute to community. If you're told traditional male purposes are problematic but not given alternatives, what's left? It's like a game where they remove the main quest line without replacing it. You can wander around, but there's no clear goal or purpose, and eventually you just log off. And male achievements are increasingly dismissed as privilege. Like, you built a career, male privilege. Assertive leadership, that's toxic masculinity. Success starts to feel like it has a whole risk behind it. And young men are confused about identity. Should they be traditional, modern, somewhere in between? Mixed messages from different parts of society offer no clarity. I want to hear y'all's comments below about your experience with this, because me personally, I've only seen this shit online. I've not been called any of these things in person. I haven't really met people. I've met people who have these beliefs, but it's like I never associated with them or worked with them. Like, maybe I haven't been thrown in the situation, I'm not sure. But again, a lot of the things I just mentioned, I feel like I only see online. I don't see that in reality when I'm touching grass and going on with my life. And honestly, if people do call you that in person, or you're still doing the right thing, you're being you, screw what they got to say, to be honest. Just be yourself. Given everything we've covered, let's be honest about why opting out is a rational response for a lot of young men. Why work hard when houses are unaffordable right now? Why pursue education when it leads to debt without jobs? Why try dating when success rates are terrible right now? Why chase traditional markers of success when they seem so far out of reach? Constant rejection, economic stress, social isolation, and cultural messaging that you're problematic. Opting out can be self-preservation. Minimizing ambition reduces disappointment. Living modestly and working enough to survive, and investing time in hobbies and online communities, like, this provides more daily satisfaction than grinding toward distant, maybe impossible goals. Gaming provides achievement, community, purpose, and entertainment. And when real life offers struggle without reward, virtual achievements feel more satisfying because they're actually achievable. Society judges men for opting out, calls them lazy or entitled, but you can't hold people to standards from an economy that doesn't exist anymore. The ladder was pulled up and they're being blamed for not climbing. Opting out is a form of protest for some people, and if society doesn't offer men a viable path to the life they're told to want, refusing to play is a rational response. And like I mentioned, maybe people are going to start living more modestly, living below their means and just enjoying their life. They're finding purpose in other things. People might start pursuing more of their passions and building a business out of it. There's a lot of different paths that people are taking right now, and I'm telling you, the hope isn't gone, and a lot of us are going to go through the motions of life whether the system was like this or not. We just have to adapt to a completely different version of this country that compared to what our parents grew up in, and that's completely okay. I encourage y'all to find things that bring you fulfillment, and don't define yourself and who you should be off what people say online. It's just not worth it. This isn't about claiming young men are victims or blaming women or society. We're just trying to understand a pattern that affects millions of people. Economic systems changed, social structures dissolved, and cultural expectations shifted, but the judgment of men who struggle stayed the same. That disconnect creates the opt-out phenomenon, and we need honest conversation about male challenges without dismissing them as privilege. Economic opportunity that makes traditional paths viable, and social spaces for organic community building, clear, positive visions of modern masculinity. If you're a young man struggling with this, just know you're not alone and you're not broken. The systems are misaligned and it's usually not you, but eventually you have to take action and do the right thing still. Find what brings meaning, and even if it's not traditional success, build community where you can. Do what you need to survive mentally and financially, because an entire generation of men opting out isn't a personal failure, it's a social failure. And until we address the actual systemic issues creating this pattern, it's just going to continue. But anyways, that's all I got. Thank you for watching. Remember, choosing your own path isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the sanest response to insane expectations.